Crystal Palace 4, Manchester United 0. Stephen Howson joins me. Just abject. Absolutely abject, that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What can we really say about this game that we haven't said already? Is the fact that it keeps happening surprising you? Is the fact that we're not seeing any improvement surprising you? Because we've seen performances like this. You know, the results aren't always this bad, but performance-wise, we're kind of getting used to this. Is that almost as damning as the result? The fact that this sort of performance is sort of what we expect now this season?
I feel like that performance, not the result, the performance there felt worse than the 7-0 at Liverpool. I can't explain why. It just felt like it was fucking calamitous in every sense of the word. It was like, we can't mark space, we can't mark men, we can't pass to each other, we can't stop a pass, we can't stop shots. I mean, actually, how many shots did they even have? I mean, I know we
18.
got... All right, so it's not even that many, really, for a United game. Just felt... At any point, did we look like we were on top in the game?
Maybe the first 2 or 3 minutes, if that.
At any point was you like, oh, Manchester United, what are we good at, Joe?
Honestly, today we weren't good at anything. I think that's why it looked so bad. At least in that Liverpool game, for some of the first half, we looked like we could create something. This game, we didn't like creating anything. We couldn't stop them. They were attacking at will. Some of the big players as well, who you hope will pull you out of games like this, people like Casemiro, in particular, just were not available in terms of his performance. Talk to me about Casemiro, because you've got Jamie Carragher saying he needs to retire. That's the sort of level. Adam McCullough called that his Hawthorns, like Gary Neville against West Brom. What was that performance from Casemiro?
That was worse than anything I've ever seen Gary Neville turn out. Do you know what? I got a confession to make here. I used to call him fuck off Neville for about 18 months, because where my season ticket used to be in K-Stand, second half we would attack towards the Stretford end away from us, right? So Gary Neville as a right back, PP 32 is where he used to be, entrance 138. So it's kind of on the north side box line of K-Stand. Gary Neville used to be right in front of me. And for about a year, it was bad, right? And quite a few people around us used to just shout, fuck off, Neville. Because he was, from the height of what he'd been to where he became, he was a hindrance to us. He was never as bad as Casemiro's been tonight. He was like, Gary Neville was a 5 out of 10. When he'd been 7 and 8 out of 10 his entire career, so there was an annoyance with it. Casemiro's just dropped to fucking 0. And do you know what's worse about the fact he's dropped to 0? Is I don't think he actually gives a fuck that he's just dropped to 0. I think this guy he's got 4 different brochures for houses in Saudi Arabia, and he's going to sit there on the coach and ask the kit man what colour tiles he should have on his shitter. I don't think he's asked, because there's no way you are asked, and you play like, I've seen more commitment and professionalism at fucking Power League. He was literally paid his fiver and had a fucking run around tonight and try and kick someone. That's all he did. What did he do? He couldn't pass, he couldn't fucking tackle, he couldn't mark, he couldn't track, he couldn't defend.
I saw a stat that I think he got dribble past 8 or 9 times in the game today, which is the most of any player in the Premier League this season. And obviously
in
he's
any
playing
season, probably.
Maybe. He's playing out of position, which obviously is one thing where you say, okay, maybe a position. But some of the sort of the tackles and the kind of moments he had within touching distance of his man that don't really matter what position you're in. You've just got to get the ball or stop them getting past you.
Playing out of position's one thing. Was he playing out of sport?
Yeah, I know.
Because that's what it looked like. Who would have done a worse job? Princess Anne.
Yeah. It's bizarre the way that we've seen him decline as part of this, and that it's gone from being last season, I think him, Martinez, Rashford and Bruno were our best players, maybe Luke Shaw, to now not just sort of off his best. He's, like you said, he was an absolute liability tonight, and to the point where it's almost a little bit sad to see the player we've seen for so many years at Real Madrid, even the player we saw at times last season, to what we're seeing now at Casemiro is just completely upsetting almost to watch. Just on the manager then, because yeah, we've got players playing out of position, injuries, and I do think that'll cost you maybe even 10, 15 points a season. But we're getting to a point now where what is Ten Hag's future at Manchester United? We haven't seen a manager have a spell like this, anything other than sort of Solskjaer's end to his first season, but he just started. A manager have a spell like this into his United career and not get the sack. Do you think Ten Hag is going to get the sack?
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the right decision or the wrong decision, but I think it will be the decision. I don't know if he can turn it around. From this point in, I don't know if he can turn it around. And I don't know if even if he could turn it around, is he going to be afforded the several years it's going to require to be turned around? I don't know if there's... Look, what he achieved last season, he achieved it. He definitely achieved it. He achieved a very high success rate in terms of matches won. And he put together an incredible run with some of our players finding some form that they just haven't been able to touch this year. And he got to 2 cup finals in doing so. Let's not rewrite history. Last season was a very positive season. And we were right to be positive going into this season, thinking that we would build upon that. Evidently, we've really not built on that. But what we have done is completely fucking unplug all of the positive stuff that we did, boot it down the fucking road, and make everybody like, people are now saying like Ten Hag is a bad manager, factual bad manager. Like, I've said this several times. Not everything that's happened at the club is his fault, but a lot of it is his responsibility. And I think even just down to the basics of Casemiro not getting the curly finger at any point tonight, when he was putting in such an abjectly obvious, by anyone's standards, poor performance, that is on the manager. Now, when he brings Amrabat on, why not put Casemiro back in the midfield if you've got to keep him on and put Amrabat there? Could he be worse? Could you not tried one of the kids there? Could he have been worse? Like, I saw Manchester United, I think 17-year-old Nicky Butt, possibly a Gary Neville. It might have even been the likes of fucking John O'Kane, for all I can remember. Phil Neville maybe got a go. I know Gary Walsh was in net. We got absolutely fucking rodded by Barcelona. But in our defence, it was Barcelona, and it was like Romario. It was an unbelievable side, and that was down to the foreigner rule where United couldn't field the likes of Giggs and Hughes and Kanchelskis and Cantona and Schmeichel and all of these players that we had at our disposal. We couldn't field them. It wasn't fucking Eze and Elise. Romario.
The ability for
it was
this
the
team...
same fucking score. And I remember... that 4-0 in by Barcelona being like spoken about in hushed terms, because Manchester United don't fucking lose 4-0. Even if it's Barcelona, aka the fucking dream team that was called, we don't lose 4-0 to anyone. And no one really give us the excuse of, oh, the foreigner rule and this, that, and the other. No, that was a bad, and we can't let that happen again. We've just watched it tonight to fucking Crystal Palace with Will Hughes in midfield. AKA not Romario.
Yeah. That felt...
Guardiola might have even played that. Let me have a look.
That felt tonight like the sort of performance that happens when you've had a man sent off really early on in a game. That kind of level of just, they don't even have to do a lot and they've battered you. You talk about that, the standards, and the fact that United now will quite comfortably, usually pretty much every season, will lose a handful of games 3 or 4-0, and it's kind of not battered at the moment. Do you worry that, obviously Casemiro in terms of what he's doing on the pitch now is kind of beyond that, but if we get rid of the likes of Varane and Casemiro, and even Bruno Fernandes, there's been rumours of him leaving, some of the people who maybe the standards haven't been there on the pitch but have certainly or you would hope, have the standards off the pitch. Do you worry that this rebuild could even take longer if we lose all of the players that kind of tried to hold you to those standards, or do you just think we have to prioritise what we're seeing on the pitch?
Seeing this club survive Roy Keane and Erik Cantona and David Beckham, Brian Robson and all them lot leave, and we've done all right. Yeah. Guardiola was playing. I was right. Bruno's been very disrespected since he joined United. I think he's been mistranslated in terms of the things he was saying there, in terms of him, going. I'm actually beyond the point where I don't know if there's a player that United could get rid of at the moment and I'd be devastated. I don't know if there is. And by the way, the team we had out that night was actually pretty fucking good. Gary Walsh in there, Parker, Pallister, Bruce and Irwin. And midfield three, interestingly, of Ince, Keane and Butt. Hella defensive. And then Kanchelski, Hughes and Giggs. The bench, Simon Davies, Pilkington, Phil Neville, Paul Scholes, David Beckham.
When's the next time we'll have a team that good to put out?
And I mean, yeah, a team that got shagged 4-0.
Yeah.
Barcelona that night. Busquets in net. His dad. Ferrer, Abelardo, Ronald Koeman, Barjuan, Guardiola, Amor, Vaquero. He was a player. Stoichkov, Romario, and Jordi Cruyff.
I think it shows where we are as a club that the coping mechanism is just reading out the starting lineups of games we got battered in 30 years ago. Even that is preferable to this.
I'm having a good time here for the first time tonight. I'm going to be honest with you.
Exactly. And maybe we should wrap this up.
Bench, though? Who was their bench?
Go on then. Who's on the bench?
If you can name anyone off their bench.
You said Koeman already, ain't you?
Yeah, he started.
So it's pre my era. This is the year after I was born. Who's on their bench? I bet Puyol could have been knocking about. Was he there? He's got to have been at least 25 in 1994. Go on, who's on the bench?
Tiki Bajiristyan.
There he is. Now he's running the show at City. Like I said, I think we should wrap this up while one of us at least is having fun. You can read your starting 11s at home.
All roads lead to Rotterdam, Joe. You know this.
All roads lead to Rotterdam, and hopefully United can look a bit more positive going forward. But like you said, it looks like we're on the cusp of a new manager. We need a new back line. We need a new midfield. We need a new everything at the minute. Crystal Palace 4, Manchester United 0.
What job for T, Joe?
Chicken burger.